Welcome back. In the last video, you learned about the trans-theoretical model and how to adjust your presentations to fit the psychographics of your audience. What we're going to get into now are emotions. Now, we touched on that prior. We touched on emotions and how, what's going on with people and how it directly relates to the financial decisions they make. There's a direct correlation between money and emotions. That's how most decisions are made. They're based off of fear, worry, stress, greed, all of those. Now, I've worked with many clients in the past who are up a lot of money in their investments, who are down a lot of money in their investments. And I'll tell you, their decisions and reasonings were not logical at all. The people that were up, I'm going to let it go up. I'm going to be rich. This is going to be a huge success. It drops half the value. They freeze up. They don't know what to do. And they're like, oh, it'll come back, and hoping and wishing when they should have had some safety nets in place. Something to protect what they've gained. People on the other end, they'll watch their whole net worth go down, and it puts them in a bad financial problems. They're in serious financial circumstances, and they still don't make moves they need to, simply because they just don't understand. They've let their emotions get in the way of logic.
As humans, we are conditioned to move away from pain and towards pleasure. Let's think about this on a financial basis. There are a lot of people out there that want to retire at a certain age or have certain financial goals, but they're not saving money toward those objectives. At the same time, they may be out getting a 12-pack of beer on the weekend or expensive coffee every morning and supersizing their junk food. They're spending money on splurges that are taking them away from their longer-term goals. They're giving up their long-term enjoyment for that instant pleasure.
Now, humans don't always go for the long-term pleasure, but our role as educators is to point out how those things are pleasurable now, things like that daily cup of coffee, and how they are not in alignment with our longer-term goals. We really need to help them associate that and understand that. Now, for some people, they can afford that, and they're still on a good path toward securing their future, and that's fine. I'm not saying that everyone has to be a cheapskate, but what I'm saying is that if they're making financial decisions that are taking them away from their longer-term enjoyment of life, that's not a good situation to be in.
In those cases, we need to identify what they think is sustainable now and point out that it's going to cause them long-term pain. And get this association over and over. What you find out is that everything bends in the never. In the last few sessions of this course, we're going to tie along with this thing. It's important to know that this information right now and how we as humans are conditioned. A lot of people simply do not create long-term plans at all. And that's because they don't want to think about it. It maybe really what really upsets them, or it stresses them out. In fact, most people out there don't even have a long-term financial plan.
If you're watching this course and you don't have a written long-term plan, you need to create one. It's critical that you do. You're going to be teaching this, so it's important that you live it.
Now, it's not important your financial status now. That doesn't matter. If you've done well and you're successful, great, congratulations. If you're struggling right now, that's fine too. Bring that. Share that with your audience, but at the same time, believing what you teach. Walk the walk. Make those changes that you need in your life to achieve whatever type of financial desire you have. But it's critical you set your longer-term vision for yourself personally. Not only that, not only with money, relationship-wise, it's important. Health-wise, career, and giving back-wise, all of those areas. It's really important that you stay focused on those longer-term plans for yourself and get your participants, the end user, those clients you're serving, focused on that as well. Also, many people make financial decisions that aren't in alignment with their comfort zone. This is mainly for adults. When you're talking and working with adults, we need to find out their risk tolerance and different things like that. So, what type of investor are you? Are you a penny pincher? Are you kind of balanced? Are you an overspender? Identifying where you're at and trying to achieve balance in that area. But you really want to make sure that you're making those investments that are in alignment with your comfort zone, because when you do that, you're going to make more logical decisions instead of emotional decisions. Once you get out of a comfort zone, it goes to a more emotion and fear-based, often sometimes. I'm not saying don't expand your comfort zone, because as you gain knowledge, your comfort zone expands. Many people that are in personal finance and things, they find that they can take more and more educated risks rather than looking back when they didn't know information. Now, they feel comfortable taking more educated risks because they feel confident in that, because they have their plans in place.
Question for you. What are 2 emotional characteristics that influence most financial decisions of the average person? It's a greed and fear. CNN even publishes a greed and fear index. When somebody's doing well in investment, oftentimes they keep raising the bar, or whatever they want their returns to be. We see this mentality in every bubble. Real estate, it'll keep going up. The stock market, it'll continue to rise. People start counting their profits before they even secure the return. In an opposite scenario where their investments are losing money, they're scared, they're worried, and, they don't want to face the reality of their decisions. Oftentimes when people feel the emotion of fear, they freeze up.
When people lack confidence and the knowledge to make financial decisions during difficult times, often they freeze. They fear making another wrong decision or another incorrect financial move. Maybe they're worried about the people they'll let down, their parents, husbands, wives, whoever. Maybe they're worried about the complaints they get from their friends on making certain decisions about how they can use their money wisely. Whatever happens when people make these wrong decisions over time, it accumulates. Again, they get this more negative thought process going when they have to make these decisions. They freeze up, they get scared, they don't make the moves they need to. I always think back to a time when I first learned how to drive a car. It was a pretty funny experience. So my dad takes me out to this wide open parking lot, and I'd say there was maybe 6, 8, 10 light poles across this entire football field sized parking lot. I was really excited to drive, so I'm like, hey, let's do this. Put me behind the wheel. I want to go. But my dad instead said, no, slow down. First, you're going to turn on the car and put your foot on the brake, put it into gear, let your foot off the brake, let it go a little bit, then put your foot back on the brake. I maybe went 2-3 feet. I'm like, come on, Dad, I want to drive this thing. He said, no, let's continue this. So I went through that exercise maybe 20, 30 times. Then the next activity I did, foot on the brake, a little bit on the gas, back on the brake. Then I start to integrate some turning into this experience. So I do that. I start going and turn a little bit. And after a while, he finally let me loose on this parking lot, said I had to keep it under a certain speed. But I still remember to this day, I must have been about 50 feet away from this first light pole. And I was going really slow. But still, my stomach knotted up, my hands got sweaty, I got worried. I clenched this thing with a death grip because I did not gain the skills yet needed to drive the car effectively. It was at that point I realized I was so glad he just didn't throw me on the freeway and say, hey, go figure it out. I would not only put myself in jeopardy, but everybody else around me. Unfortunately, when it comes to making financial decisions, most people don't have the time to gain the skills. They're thrown on that financial freeway of life. They go out and make a mistake with their first few decisions because they haven't built up the skill sets needed. They haven't built up that knowledge. They didn't get practice. They didn't practice taking their foot on and off the brake. So what we're here to do as financial education instructors is to help them gain the skills, the confidence, and the knowledge they need to take those progressively increasing steps to make their own financial decisions so they don't freeze, so they're confident, and they're better prepared to make the decisions that align with them personally.
Helping people recognize the emotion involved in financial decisions as you educate them on the subject will empower them. I can't tell you how many times we've done an event where someone came up afterwards and said to me something like, I've been so worried over the past few months. I haven't slept. I was constantly concerned about this, and I didn't know that the solution was that easy. And it instantly relieves that fear, and they're able to make that decision.
We talked about how to do
Emotions. Just some interesting statistics that prove the role of emotions in financial decisions. First, this is really interesting and scary at the same time. 40% of Americans are counting on the lottery, sweepstakes, getting married, or inheritance to fund their retirement. That's not good. That's hope. That's wishing. I hope things turn out better. That's not action. That's not taking control of your life and your future and your family's future.
This is really interesting too. The past bubbles that we've had in the real estate market and the stock market, as people are watching this thing come down and they don't want to sell, they watch, they doubt. They can't admit the investment has turned against them, and they watch their finances crumble around them as they hold on to them the whole time, when there's a clear sign to cut your losses and move on. It doesn't help when you have financial propaganda machines leveraging their knowledge on human emotions to encourage people to invest in assets they personally are selling. As educators, you need to be, again, understanding the economy, economic situations, and be prepared and prepare people mentally for these things. One guy I really respected, still respect, is Warren Buffett. As people were teasing him, making fun of him, calling him old school, he didn't invest in any technology companies back in the day because he flat out said, I don't understand it. I don't understand the valuations. He stayed within his comfort zone and what he knew best, and that was how to value companies and so forth. As people were teasing him, when that bubble burst, again, people looked at him as the guru, which he definitely is. Let's take a look at a bubble and think about the emotions involved in the decision-making process. If you look up towards the top of this chart, many people that were saying, I don't want to miss out, I need to buy. They felt it's going to keep moving up in value. Many bought exactly at the wrong time. It gets caught up. You're reading the news, the media saying during the whole upward thing, real estate's up 20%. You see the lines of people waiting to buy homes. There's a feeding frenzy. If you ever watch sharks and their feeding frenzy, that's kind of how bubbles are. All that is just emotions. It's not wanting to miss out and also wanting to gain that greed and that fear of loss and missing out. All of those personal emotions play a role in these bubbles. We'll probably continue to experience these bubbles as we go along, but that kind of illustrates it very nice. If you draw a line of greed and fear, you could probably do it right there. Our role as educators is to definitely instill hope. A lot of people don't have hope, especially today. They're seeing what's going on in the news, they hear it from their parents, they hear it from their peers. People are worried. Our job is to instill that hope, but also get them to take action and to motivate them to actually move toward what they want to achieve instead of just sitting still and hoping. That's the difference between hope and action. It's good to have those dreams and those goals personally, and it's good to share that and let people experience that in discovering what they truly want out of life. Money is directly tied to that, but it's equally as important once we instill a sense of hope in them that we show them the action that they could take.
For instance, with teenagers and even younger kids starting in middle school, we talked about compounded interest. We have a game in the curriculum that has them saving and investing $100 a month starting at 12, 13, 14, whatever age they are. And they get to see how they can grow it into $1 million plus within their lifetime. Many people never thought that they could be a millionaire. But a simple savings plan, some decently safe investments that can actually, $100 saved and invested a month, it can actually grow to $1 million. Most of the times they're astonished by that because they just don't believe it. They think it's a far-fetched dream. So it's good to instill that hope. Now that we have them hopeful, we need to show them how to do it. Okay, save and invest your money. Here's how to set up your accounts. Here's what you need to learn about this before you invest. Here's the consistency. Here's how you establish that. Once they have that hope, get them to follow through with that action. That's critical.
Let's talk about all the emotions involved in money and making financial decisions. Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions theory says there are basically 8 emotions. Fear, the feeling of being afraid, shocked, or scared. Anger, feeling angry or enraged. Sadness, feeling sad. Other words that make us sadness are sorrow, grief, depression. Joy, feeling happy, glad. disgust, feeling something is wrong or dirty. Trust. This can also include admiration and acceptance. Anticipation, in the sense of looking forward positively to something which is going to happen. Surprise, how you feel when something unexpected happens. Of these 8 emotions, what would you say are involved in financial decisions? In my opinion, they all are. Now you know that financial decisions can encompass all our emotions. Think back to before when we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Financial status has an impact on all levels there as well. So it's interesting that money is very tied into all of our psychological needs and emotions. This is why you, as an educator, must have an in-depth understanding of your audience.
Let's take emotions to the next level and see how they play into our decision making. We talked about this on the big picture. Now I want to get into the cycle and how this can impact someone. This is the first negative cycle we're going to talk about. This is called the lack of knowledge cycle, and this is a really big one. When people don't have knowledge, they have fear, they lack confidence, they don't make decisions that they should. And where does this lead us to?
They believe they simply just look good again and make that mistake again. And we see this all the time. We may make thoughtful decisions, and it's hard to do when we lack that knowledge. And it also can be very challenging. You see individuals that things are on task, but either going to have a mistake that they're going to plan for, or they're going to have a lucky success. Either way. So we're going to talk about a mistake and a lucky success statement in the next 2 slides.
If they have made a mistake, they often experience these emotions: regret, shame, embarrassment, fear, worry, all those things. Then that can lead them into fear when they come to make that next financial decision. The next time they have to make a similar decision, or maybe even something different, but that reminds them of it. Then they get that freeze up again. They can't make that quick decision.
Sometimes in life, we just luck out and positive things happen. This can be a great thing when it comes to money, or it could be a very bad thing. For instance, if you made a bad financial decision and you get lucky and made money or didn't lose money, you can repeat that same decision-making process over and over again and wonder why not having that same end result didn't happen to you. Many people out there have made those decisions and they lucked out, and they're in the cycle of making incorrect decisions. Other times they'll go out and because they get all excited that the decision they made worked out, they'll get greedy and try things again and again and get into situations where their outcomes aren't truly what they wanted or their intentions were. I know this happened to me personally when I was younger. When I was about 20 and 21, I discovered Las Vegas. Now, it's only 4 hours away from me, so me and my buddies went there quite a bit. And my first 5, 6, 7 times, I did well. I paid for the trip, had a great time with my friends, and even came back with some money. After those experiences, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start to build a business going out to Vegas to finance my other businesses I was starting at the time. Now, my 7th, 8th, 9th trip, I found out why the casinos are so big. I left with a lot of money in their hands, and I learned from an early age not to gamble. Now when I go out to Vegas, I spend $100. I try to get as much free stuff as possible because I'm cheap now. That situation, fortunately, I learned from the easy way. Many people out there aren't so lucky, and they make, again, those bad mistakes, and they luck out with positive outcomes.
Building off of psychology and emotions, let's look at some of the limiting beliefs that form.
Now, a lot of people think you need to be good at math to be good with money. Me personally, I'm not good at math. I don't want to worry about money.
The interesting thing is, we have one of our first graduates of this training program. She wrote a thesis that incorporated thoughts and women and money and what she found. And her name is Dr. Longterm. She was actually talking about some women associated men and money, and said a lot of women just think it intersect with math as much as men, again, and very generally at that level. They're not interested in learning about money from that aspect. Other people just use it as an excuse, simply saying, I'm not good with math, so I'm not going to be good at money. That's simply not the case. You know how to be good at math if you're going through the calculator, multiply those figures, and that's simply all you need to know.
Parents have a big influence on how people grow up and how they perceive their future. For instance, if somebody has parents that are doing well, they're in a secure position, and maybe they're enjoying the fruits of their labor over the years, well, they assume that's how their life is going to be as well. When you talk to them or review their credit report as they grow up, you'll see something different. They're going on a different path from their parents because they were able to enjoy the fruits of their parents' labor, but didn't have to put in the work and dedication. So let's assume we're able to enjoy that without putting the work in, gaining the skills and gaining the knowledge to get there. On the opposite end of the coin, we have people who grew up with parents that aren't in good financial situations. Maybe they're not ever going to be able to retire, and maybe they're constantly worried about money. Well, oftentimes their sons and daughters can see this and pick this up. And then they get in the mindset like, I'll never be able to achieve financial wellness. I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm never going to be able to have those things or even take a vacation because they see what their parents are going through and they assume the same things for their life. So our parents and guardians have a big influence on our lives. It impacts the decisions they make about money, and it impacts many areas of their life moving forward. So it's really important we start to instill positive financial habits in our kids at a young age.
People say it's just too confusing. Not at all. Money is easier than any subject that you're learning in high school for the most part. It's a basis of personal finances that are easier than most classes that you'll take in high school or even in college. Everybody says that. Tell them right away. What I'm sharing with you is when you do hear these excuses, make sure that you let them know it's just an excuse and give them a solution to that excuse or just completely help them overcome that excuse.
We'll be talking about the fear. So, today message later on how to handle excuses properly. I was kind of a blood teacher style. You need to find your own teacher style, whatever that is. If somebody says it's too confusing, did you guys know in high school? Then this is simple. You can do it. We're going to figure it out right here. What's confusing? And put it out there just like that. You need to find your own teacher style that works for you.
Work hard, play hard, spend money. Yeah, it's just my lifestyle. What's that thing now? YOLO, you only live once? All that's great, but you can live once now and 5 years be broke. Let's make sure you can live that same lifestyle you want your whole life.
I have enough that could be the case for some people. You don't need a ton of money to be successful or to fulfill your dreams, but oftentimes the people that are saying this are behind on their rent, not making their car payment and things like that. So that's not the case for them. I need to buy whatever it is. I need this. No, you don't. You have a roof. You have food. You're okay. Money is the root of all evil. Again, these are just kind of things that people hear in their life, and it's an excuse. They don't believe it, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. One of the dumbest ones that I hear, I don't want to pay more taxes. Yeah, if you're going to make more money, you're going to end up with more money in your pocket. So let's do the math here, buddy. Let's figure this out together. You make this much money, you still pay this much in taxes. You're going to end up with more money in your pocket at the end of the day. I have an inheritance coming. That's somewhere else where they are delaying their personal responsibility. That's great if you have an inheritance, but what if something tragic happens to your grandmother or anything like that to where they need to cover their health care or anything? You may not have an inheritance. Take personal responsibility for your life.
All these kinds of excuses that many of you may hear, most of them are more common with the adult crowd, but you definitely do hear it with kids too. It's pretty interesting that excuses can be formed early in life and can last a lifetime. If you have kids or are working with kids, be sure to crush those paralyzing, limiting excuses immediately. Inspire them and help them get them on the road to financial mental wellness early in life. With adults that have been programming their brain for years, with these excuses, it might take more work, but you can help them change their thoughts. When successful, their behaviors will follow. Let's talk about creating positive financial psychology. The first step is to understand who you're speaking to. The more we know about an audience, the better. What you're going to find out in each class you teach, you're going to be learning so much about your audience. It's really interesting.
The first step in this process builds upon an activity we completed earlier. We need to truly understand our audience. What are some of the challenges they're facing? What are their goals, dreams, and motivators? Why are they listening to you right now? You need to empathize with them and their situation. I personally had a great opportunity in the past to talk to over 20,000 people one-on-one about their personal finances. And at the same time, I was able to review 10,000 people's personal financial statements, from their credit report to their asset statements to their income documentation. So I had a very good overview of what they were going through financially. During those years, I was able to build up my empathy muscle in having discussions with them. I understood what they were going through, some of the challenges they were facing, and it's really important that you as an educator take time out to build your empathy muscle. You need to understand your audience and empathize with them. Doing so will help you become a trusted educator where they feel connected with you and they take that feeling that you give them in a positive direction that will be best for them.
There are many ways to do this. You can do face-to-face surveys, even talking to them over the phone, or maybe you just want to have consultations with individual members. All of those can help you empathize with the audience you're going to teach. For those of you working with kids, a real cool way to think back to your childhood is to bring back those yearbooks, look at those, and think about how you were as a kid, how you were in high school, what grade you're teaching. Think about how it impacted you personally. If you're working with adults, maybe you will feel financial challenge that's faced by others that you're serving. Or think back to that time, really drill down. Hey, how did it impact your life? What were some of those emotions you were feeling? And what type of advice would you most listen to? By taking that extra time, you're going to understand your audience better. That's why I like doing multiple events where you really can connect with the audience and get to know them on a personal, deeper level. You're able to build that relationship. And anytime you're teaching class, you're going to hear this 100 times. You need to understand your audience as best as possible. Empathize with them. By doing so, you're going to have a greater impact on them taking your advice and moving in a better financial direction for them personally.
High expectations. This is a big one for me. So many times we'll discuss a presentation that we're going to deliver in a workplace or even to a nonprofit, and the counselor or whomever heads it, these people will say, they're on assistance. We just want to give them the basics. No, we want to really forget that mindset and that theory. We need to set their sights higher. We need to let them know, hey, this class is going to help you to reach other levels. Again, personal finance isn't rocket science. Little changes add up to big results over time if you do it consistently. Again, we need to understand our audience. We need to understand where they are on the stages to change. But oftentimes, they're so used to people giving them low expectations. When you give them high expectations infused with hope, motivation, and these other different things, it's refreshing and it's different.
We all have dreams, but who dreams about we're going to pay off that credit card? That's great. Is that really exciting, motivating? You feel good, and here's the first sense of relief, and you'll feel a little bit stressed now. But Is it really exceeding? Is it something that we should focus on? Or should we think more long-term, more past it? What about the vacation they take later in the future? Or I think about all the debt that you've paid off and how you'll be able to live more freely on a regular basis. How about being more excited about not having work 5 days a week? Maybe for having getting a job or not having to worry about sending your kids to college or even worrying about your retirement. We need to set our expectations a little bit higher. Again, with each audience, your serving is going to be different when you share these higher expectations. To work with people in the later stages, on the stages of change model, if you're working with them, you may not want to put these plans strategies out there very early. But as you get to know them, as you get to understand what motivates them, and the big picture dreams that they have, you're going to want to start using these dreams and these goals as carrots and sticks to keep getting them to the next level. So expectations are going to be very big.
We want to help the students and the participants identify their current relationship with money. This is important. As instructors, we all have our own relationships with money. Some people are spenders, some people are cheap, some people like to invest. We all have different ways we like to handle and have a relationship with money. It's important. You can share your own personal stories, but you're not trying to convince somebody to follow your exact ways. What we do, especially on the cheapskate to overspender, is to try to get them to live a more balanced life. At least identify where they're at. We can do this through questions, and we'll talk a lot about leading through questions later in these future events. We'll be able to lead them through questions. If you weren't going to save every dollar that you made and did some other things, what other things would you like to do if you had some money for some fun things that you enjoyed? So guiding them toward living a more balanced life. The same thing with overspenders. Hey, if you cut back on the shoe purchases, what do you think you would do with that money? I'd save more. Okay, how much could you allocate towards savings if you just maybe cut down your shoe purchases a month to one a month? I can probably save this much more. So we can lead them to live a more balanced life.
We're going to talk a lot about creating emotional roller coasters. This is an important thing that we're going to spend a lot of time on because we don't want to take them on a real emotional roller coaster until we're very skilled.
Initially, when you're first starting, we're going to take them on a more positive roller coaster, getting them excited about something that they see, and then maybe discussing the pitfalls, not in a way that's emotionally charged. So we're going to emotionally charge the benefits that they'll experience, but not emotionally charge the negative benefits. We'll spend a lot of time on that later. It's important. We don't emotionally charge negative benefits when you're first starting out because, again, that can drive people away from the learning process. Provide a clear and detailed action plan. I've talked a lot about that. Anytime you have a class, it's important to know the next steps that they can take and then give them those exact steps. Address the topic strategically, but be flexible. What I mean by that is have an idea on what you want to cover and cover it in a way that makes sense. However, if somebody has a question or something that you see that they still want to talk about and you see the class is still interested in it, continue on that. Let them guide you while you're still focused on the end goals there.
Many people have goals, but if they aren't backed by reasons, they don't often get accomplished. Help your audience think about the reasons they want to improve their financial situation. There are many ways to help them do this, but one of the most effective is to highlight the benefits other real people have experienced. In a few minutes, I'll be asking you to write down your own story that help an audience connect with you personally or with an emotionally charged story that will help them develop their own personal reasons to improving their financial capabilities. Listen to Vince share an example of a story he uses with young adults.
I really like incorporating stories into my lesson plans. One story I bring up quite a bit brings me back to some old high school memories. Now, back in high school, I had a tight group of friends. There was about 5 or 6 of us that went to lunch almost every single day. And almost every single day, my one buddy, he would bring out a surf magazine. And as we're driving and as we're eating, he'd be flipping through this magazine and pointing out different things and say, I'm going to go surf Bali. I'm going to go surf the Gold Coast of Australia. I'm going to go live in Costa Rica. I mean, this guy had some big dreams. But at the same time, I had a lot of respect for him because not only did he have these big dreams, he worked hard toward them. You see, almost every morning, 5 a.m., he was out there surfing. Nights and weekends, when it wasn't blown out, he was out there surfing. That's what he did. He lived to surf. He talked to surf. He had all the body language of surfers. He embodied surfing culture. Now, a few months after high school, I don't know what happened. We lost contact. But you know, one of those friends, it doesn't matter how much time has passed, you have that tight connection with them. Well, that's how he and I were. And I saw him at a reunion, and immediately we start ragging on each other, sharing old jokes, just having a good time. So as the conversation ensues, he asked me what I did. And typically, I love talking about my business and financial literacy in general. But I interrupted myself because I was so interested in his story. I wanted to hear about where he went, what he did. So I asked him, where'd you go? What did you do? What did you see? And right then, the entire tone changed. He kind of looked down. He said, I didn't go anywhere. I got caught up. I bought a truck. I got this job. I got in some credit card debt, and I didn't go anywhere. And that blew me away. I envisioned his life as traveling the world, surfing the best breaks. And come to find out, he didn't go anywhere. In fact, he felt so bad and so guilty, he gave up completely on surfing. Now, we continued the story later on in the evening, and he came up and we were still talking about what I was doing. And he said, if I would have just picked up a few lessons and not bought that new truck, I didn't need a $700 truck payment. If I would have not got in that credit card debt, I didn't need those new clothes. And if I would have stayed focused on my goals, my entire life could have been different. So sharing a story like that can really help you connect with your audience in a real way that's meaningful to you and them.
Now, the nice thing about this story, and I'm sure it's easy for me to remember, and plus it's very emotionally charged. There's a lot of feelings that people can relate to, and the dreams that get off course, and those lifestyle goals that people have. So it's really important when you're crafting or remembering a story and try to fit that audience that you're seeing. I mean, how many people out there would relate to this type of story, maybe where the dreams got off track? Well, this could be something you see with young adults, or even adults maybe that have lost their way. So pay close attention to that story format. It's really important. Again, it's fun to deliver, the audience is interested, and plus we're able to incorporate financial literacy lessons in a unique way. And that abbreviated story, typically on a story, it's about 20 minutes or so. We talk about things like overspending, giving up, track on our goals, initial mistakes such as compound, like that, and different things in that nature. So you can really incorporate and build in financial literacy lessons into those stories. Again, that was a really abbreviated version, but I invite you to think back in your life. What are those stories that you think the audience you're serving would connect with? How can you motivate the audience and teach them in a unique way? And people, the great thing is they do remember stories a lot easier than just lists of information.
I want you to take a few minutes, reflect, create a story that will impact not only you, and you'll have emotion when you share it. You want to share it. It's easy for you to remember, but you can also integrate financial literacy lessons into it. When we're focused on adding emotions in it, benefits, consequences, we're talking about the different decisions that somebody made that maybe got them off course or even on course. It could be work, and either way in the positive and negative. Again, in your training manual, there are several areas within that manual that will help you develop several different stories that you can share. The key thing is understanding your audience. Even if you don't know exactly who your audience is right now, that's okay. Do what you think they may be. Life can be flexible, and be willing to adjust that. Press pause now and start writing. You may want to just speak it out loud first and then put it on paper. Hit pause now and go. Welcome back. Thank you for completing that activity and continue to practice that story out loud until you can deliver that with emotion and purpose. Now, a lot of things we talked about here are setting the stage work for future lessons that we're going to be teaching. But understand, with every class, with everybody that you teach, with every room you enter, you need to be a little flexible as an educator.
The last part of the psychology section is getting beyond the education barrier. Most people are so used to learning things where they don't see the value. I remember my personal chemistry class. We're trying to balance the electrons or photons or neutrons or whatever the heck it is.
And I'm like, I'm never going to need this. I have no interest in science. I have no interest in atoms and all this stuff. And I just remember going, this is a waste of my time. It turned out I never used it since. People develop a negative association with just education in general, not just financial education. The nice thing is that when we are teaching financial literacy, we have very strong reasons why. So it's important to let them know right off the bat that this is different than any other class that they've taken. You're going to be learning something that will impact you every single day of your life. Now, the nice thing about working with them is we can actually get them through the stages of change very, very quickly. Once we kind of connect with them on that level and they see the bigger picture, they understand that the lifestyle they want to live requires money. Once we can connect money, lifestyle, money helping family, money doing those different things, and then it's easier than those classes, that it will benefit them every day of their life, and they're telling us reasons that they want to learn about money. So we flip the script. We're not saying, do you want to learn about money? A real big thing we're going to talk about later is how we ask questions. If I go into class, I'm not going to say, who wants to learn about money? No, because people in their head are thinking, yes, no, maybe. Instead, I'm going to say, why do you want to learn about money today? And get them to respond. They're not thinking yes or no. They're not thinking, oh, I don't want to learn about it. They're thinking, oh, because I want to be able to travel or do whatever. So it's really important we differentiate the topic early on. More and more people are realizing that they can educate themselves. From YouTube to a plethora of online resources, we are in the golden age of information. It's important as a CFEI and educator that you always promote continuing education to people. This should be included in every event. In today's age, things change quickly. Encourage your participants to get interested in the economy, personal finance, and other related topics. Suggest the structure they're learning, whether it be taking 10 minutes per day or having a family money night. Getting structure in a self-education program will help them stay cognizant about their finances and moving towards their goals. I spoke with a student that fell asleep during a half-day financial workshop. They were doing an activity on property tax and expressed her boredom. She stated learning about money was boring. It's my opinion this teacher did more harm than good. Again, we're trying to connect with our audience. What does the property tax have to do with a teenager's interest level and immediate needs? Why not teach them how to buy a car or rent a place? Just with these two topics, you can teach them about financial goal setting, budgeting, credit, loan qualification, and many other vital topics, all packaged within a topic that is timely in their lives and will keep their interest.
Let's use that last example of teaching someone about how to purchase a home. Quality educators can get the participants interested. Let's say we are working with adults that have major credit and debt issues. They likely won't be able to buy a home for quite a long time. We can use the home as a motivator to do what it takes to get on track financially. A quality educator will just take them through a process. How many people here would like to own their own home one day? Most of the class will raise their hand. Why is owning a home important to you? Let's say you just bought your first home. How will it feel when you first get those keys and walk inside? Well, right now we will show you how you can work towards this goal. And the good news is it's easier than you think. And it's a pretty fun lesson, so let's dive in.
One of the main reasons we started the Certified Financial Education Instructor program was simply because the average educator, the average financial professional out there teaching financial literacy bores their participants to death. I've been to well over 100 different financial literacy presentations, and I'll tell you, many of them I was fighting my own eyes. I wanted to go to sleep. I was not engaged. And this is a subject that I'm very passionate about, as you can hopefully see. And if I'm almost falling asleep, how is the average person in the audience feeling? So it's really important that we understand and we don't take our participants down off a path that bores them, that turns them off. Because once we disengage them or turn them off of learning, it's hard to re-engage them into the subject matter. So again, I commend you for taking the extra steps here with us today. You can increase the impact, and when you're more impactful, your audience feels it, they're more engaged, and you're leading them down the path of financial wellness.
The aforementioned tips will also be addressed more in depth in the upcoming training videos. By now, you should be starting to understand that it's important that we connect with participants in a way that's most relevant for them, and we're getting them interested. By you guys going through this training here, you're going to be better prepared. You're not turning off participants, you're turning them on to a new way of thinking about education. You will love the next training section. We're going to spend a big portion of the class on measurement. Knowing how to measure and show empirical data will help you garner media attention, raise funds, prove the validity of your program, give you added credibility, help you improve as an instructor, get your participants excited to learn, and you'll experience many other benefits. Right now, take time to complete the lessons. Also, remember to start preparing for your first event right after you complete the course. The sooner you implement what you learn, the better you retain it and incorporate the techniques into your instruction. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful evening. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.